Hello, and welcome back to Part 4 of the Math 0362 Test 5 review. I forgot to mention in the previous part that the quadratic formula is very important because there's a lot of questions on this test that's based off the quadratic formula. And also, you will not have a cheat sheet for the exam, so you must memorize it in order to do well. Please, try to memorize. Don't be like this student that trying to get around it. It may be something that you'll regret. Anyway, 25 wants us to sketch the graph. Sketch the graph x squared. Now what x squared is, they have points. The points are 0, 0, 1, 1, and negative 1, 1. So let's plot that. So that's in the center, 1, 1, negative 1, 1. And x squared always looks like the letter u. When you have a plus 4, that just means all points move 4 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a point. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's another. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's another. And that's your graph. 26, same thing, but this time you see a minus 3. This means start with the x squared graph, but then go 3 down. So x squared is 0, 0, 1, 1, and negative 1, 1. And of course, it still looks like the letter u. But now we're going to go 3 down. So 1, 2, 3, there's a point. 1, 2, 3, there's another. 1, 2, 3, there's another. And there's our graph. All right, 27. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So we'll go a little at a time. All right, vertex, negative b over 2a. b is negative 2, so that's going to be minus negative 2 over 2 times negative 1. This works out to be 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. But vertex has to be 2 points, so we're going to plug negative 1 into our equation. So it's going to go minus negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. So you get negative 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is equal to 4. So if you go down to the bottom left, the vertex is negative 1, positive 4. Well, you need 3 points to make a good graph. And here's a way to always get a good quadratic graph. After getting the vertex, look for before and after. So before would be 0, and after is negative 2. We'll plug that in. If you plug in 0, you get negative 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 3, which is 3. If you do negative 2, you get negative 2 squared minus 2 times negative 2 plus 3. So that's negative 4 plus 3, which is still 3. Here's a hint. The before y and the after y will always be the same. All right, y-intercept is the last number. What do I mean by the last number? Well, the number that doesn't have an x, which is 3. So the y-intercept is 0, 3. Now, x-intercept means quadratic. So a is negative 1, b is negative 2, c is 3. Let's punch everything in. So negative 2, that's going to be minus negative 2, plus minus square root, negative 2 squared, minus 4 times negative 1 times 3 over 2 times negative 1. So we're going to get 2 plus or minus 2 squared, which is 4. 4 times 1 times 3, that's 12, over negative 2. And 4 plus 12, that's equal to 16, and I like 16 because it's perfect. It's equal to 4. So you get 2 plus or minus 4 over negative 2. If you add, 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 over negative 2 is negative 3. So that's your first x-intercept. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Divide by negative 2, you get positive 1. Your second x-intercept. Okay, so let's go to the graph. So our vertex was at negative 1, 4. So that's 1 to the left and 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a point there. We also had a point at 0, 3. So that's 1, 2, 3 straight up. And then negative 2, 3, which is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then draw an upside down U. All right, domain and range. Here's a hint. For this test, the domain is always negative infinity to infinity. As for the range is going to be negative infinity to 4. Negative infinity because it goes down, 4 because that's the highest point. So that part is over. All right, next question. All right, we're going to do the same thing. So the vertex is going to go minus negative 2 over 2 times 1. So 2 over 2 equals 1. Then we're going to plug 1 back in. So you get 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 5. 1 minus 2 plus 5 equals to 4. So our vertex is 1, 4. Let me write that down here. All right, before and after, so I'm thinking 0 and 2. If I plug in 0, I get 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 5, which is 5. And like I said, before and after y will always be the same. They have to be for quadratics. So it's 5. All right, the y-intercept is the last number, and the last number is 5, so the y-intercept must be 0 and 5. Now for quadratic. So a is 1, b is negative 2, c is 5. So you're going to get minus negative 2 plus minus square root negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. So you're going to get 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 20 over 2. 4 minus 20 is negative 16. And 16 is perfect. It's 4, but because it's negative, it's really 4i. So you get 2 plus or minus 4i over 2. And the good news is you can divide by 2. So it's 1 plus minus 2i. Okay, let's go to the graph. So the vertex was at 1, 4, which is 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4 up. You also had a point at 0, 5, which is 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also at 2, 5. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The graph as always looks like the letter U. Now remember, domain, always negative infinity to infinity. But this time the range will be from 4 to infinity. 4 because that's the lowest point, and infinity because it goes up. Okay. 29, more of the same. So it's going to go, vertex will go negative 4 over 2 times 1, which is negative 2. And if you plug in negative 2, you get negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 3. So 4 minus 8 plus 3 equals minus 1. So negative 2, negative 1. That's our vertex. So I'm thinking before and after. So I like negative 1 and negative 3. If I plug in negative 1, that's going to be negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 plus 3. So 1 minus 4 plus 3, that is equal to 0. And if that's 0, that means this is also 0. Y-intercept is the last number. The last number is 3, so therefore it's 0, 3. Now for quadratic. A is 1, B 4, C 3. Let's punch it all in and see what happens. So, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3 over 2 times 1. So working the top, 4 squared is 16, 4 times 1 times 3 is 12, and you know 16 minus 2 is 4, and I like 4 because that's perfect, it's 2. So you get negative 4 plus minus 2 over 2. If you add, you get negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So that's the first answer. And if you subtract, you get negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. The second answer. Let's go to our chart. So, well, maybe I should check the points first. The vertex was negative 2, negative 1. So that's 2 left, 1, 2, and 1 down. The next point was negative 1, 0, which is right here. And then also negative 3, 0, which is over here. And then we can make our graph. As always, the domain is always negative infinity to infinity. That will not change. But this time the range would be from negative 1 to infinity. Negative 1 is the lowest point, and infinity because it goes up. All right, last one. Again, we'll use the vertex formula. So it's going to go negative 4 over 2 times 1, which is equal to negative 2. And we'll plug it in. So negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 1. So 4 minus 8 plus 1 is negative 3. That's our vertex. Negative 2, negative 3. So before and after, I like negative 1 and negative 3. And I'll plug in negative 1. So that's going to be 1 minus 4 plus 1, which is negative 2. So that means the after must also be negative 2, because they're always the same, before and after. All right, the last number is 1, so the y-intercept must be 0 and 1. And now quadratic formula, so 1, 4, 1. Let's punch it in. Negative 4 plus or minus square root, 4 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 1, all over 2 times 1. So working the inside, 4 squared is 16, and 4 times 1 times 1 is 4, over 2. Well, 16 minus 4 is 12. 12 is not perfect, but two numbers that make it are 4 and 3, and 4 is perfect. It's 2. So you get negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root 3 over 2. I like 4, 2, and 2 because they're all even. So it becomes negative 2 plus or minus square root 3. That's the x-intercept. Let's go to the chart. So first, the vertex was at negative 2, negative 3. So that's 2 to the left, 1, 2, and 3 down, 1, 2, 3. There was also another point at negative 1, negative 2. So that's 1 to the left and 2 down. And then negative 3, negative 2, which is 1, 2, 3 to the left, 1, 2 down. But nonetheless, it's still the letter U. And again, domain is always negative infinity to infinity. This time the range is going to be from negative 3 to infinity. Negative 3 is the lowest point, in infinity because it goes up. So, that concludes the Test 5 exam review. I hope this was helpful for everyone. If you have any questions, please stop by the Math Resource Center in ESEE 1112, and we will be glad to help. If not, then good luck and tune in for the exam review, the final exam review. Have a great day. Thank you.